Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Groyper Report. Tonight, we have some groundbreaking news to share with you.
Welcome to the Groyper Report. Introducing the most racist men alive. They are shutting it down as we speak. Welcome to the Groyper Report. Sexist. Racist. Phobic this, phobic that. Terrorizing women across the country. Telling them to wear clothes. Saying all women are mid. Minorities fear them. The president has them on speed dial.
Guess what? Your body, my choice.
Brought to you by Frog Aura Maxing. Brought to you by Frog. Giga Chat Central, yes, thank you for asking. They all must go. Welcome to the one and only. Defending the last white men on Earth. AtlasThugged and Josh Van Der Nord. This is the Groyper Report.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another edition of the Groyper Report. I am your host, AtlasThugged, aka White Boy Deep Voice, aka another racially ambiguous Groyper. And I am joined by my co-host,
Joshua Van Der Nord. Happy to wish Atlas a happy belated birthday. Missed my little thing in the hat too, but happy birthday, buddy.
I appreciate that. We didn't need all the festivities, but I do appreciate that. Thank you, man. And we are the one network that is not afraid to say Christ is King. And we have such a juicy, succulent red meat week to get into today. And man, I'm excited. So what we had this week, we'll get into it just right off the top real quick, rapid fire. We had the Epstein list continuing its debacle. The Trump administration continues to defend pedophiles and billionaires across this country, namely those who are Jewish. In addition to that, we also have Vivek Ramaswamy issuing a call to war against all white Americans, and specifically, he's waging war against the American identity. We will, here in Ohio, defeat him. All hope is not lost. We will rally behind Casey the car guy, or Casey Pooched, I think is his actual name. Forgive me if I said it wrong. But I intend to give my full-throated support of Casey Pooched as much as I possibly can, and I will do as much as I can to also grope Vivek in Ohio whenever he posts his events on his calendar. In addition to that, we also have Ben Shapiro and the rest of all the faux conservatives literally seething, coping, crying, whinging, whining, moaning, all of the feminist kind of tags you could put in there, about Nick Fuentes. And I think that's indicative of the fact that Nick Fuentes has broken open the conservative party. And I think what we will see is actually the midterms will fall under the wayside compared to what's going to take place in the governor race here in Ohio. And I'm excited to see what happens with that. And we're also going to visit a little bit about me mom dying in the Holly. So we'll cover all of that. We have a good week to get into. Before I open it up to some of the first clips, Josh, anything you want to add to what you felt about the events this week?
Oh, dude. That's the first time I've heard you say it out loud. Me mom died in the holly. Like, in your deep, sultry voice, it sounds very good. But I didn't know Casey the car guy's last name was Pooched. It kind of sounds like a mafia. Hey, Casey Pooch, yeah. What are you doing? It kind of sounds like that. Which I hope he wins, man. I hope he's mobbed up. I hope he beats the real mob that we're fighting up against in your neck of the woods. Yeah, I'm gonna be there for it, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. Actually, funny enough, my dad had texted me earlier today, kind of, saying, man, looks like Ohio's going to get Amy Act. And I said, not so fast. I was like, there's one white man left. Is there one real? And it's Casey Pooched. And so hopefully we get him and he will win. Let me go to the super chat real quick. Somebody was a member at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for that. I missed it in the chat. But thank you. Looks like you became a silver member. Thank you very much. Support NAV, the new American vision. This super chat is from Mitchell Black. It says, every time me Josh coughs, Netanyahu goes stronger. What say you, Josh?
I'll do my best. I'll send money so I can buy some lozenges. We cannot let Netanyahu reach his final form.
Which is what exactly? Donald Trump? Or is it the other way around? I can't remember.
Seven-headed dragon.
Right. Well, I think to start off this week, we'll probably talk a little bit. Not too many clips from the beginning of this week, but there was over the weekend, Nick and Sneeko, forgive me, had a bit of a content kind of drip. They did a stream, I believe, or a couple of videos. Sneeko was posting content. So they had a kind of getting together. And what this was on the back of, or when it was in New York, it was the New York Young Republicans Conference, which there were some events that came out of there. But the clip that we had that I think maybe we'll play later on if we have time, is the fact that the half of the board threatened to resign if Nick Fuentes showed up. So they came around and they had dinner and stuff, but I don't think Nick was a speaker at the event. So I think he was quickly ushered out, which I think shows just how fearful they are of him. And the memes at the beginning of the week have been hitting it so hard. We had one of a gaming meme, which I thought was really good. We are also getting Helldiver memes with Nick Fuentes. And to top it all off, once again, going back into the world of women, there's now one of a quote from Nick floating around that's being used by women with cooking. And I believe it's something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was, my favorite words of when a woman talks to me is, "Here, honey, I made dinner." And so girls are baking goods to that. And so it's just showing he's pushing further and further into the mainstream. I do think the first clip we'll probably put up today was probably the most outspoken he's been on the pro-white issue all week. And this came from Tuesday, or actually did come from Monday on the America First show. And he kind of rewords the Ibram X. Kendi's, anti-racism handbook, which is it's not enough to be not racist, you have to be anti-racist. When Nick rewords it and puts it into a better perspective of it's not enough to be anti-white, you have to be pro-white. So here's the first clip. Let's get it ready.
Enough to not be anti-white. That's not enough. It's not enough to be anti-white. You have to be pro-white. You have to be, in the United States of America, pro-white. Yes. White people are under attack. White people are being genocided in the world. White people are being dispossessed. It's not enough to pump the brakes and say, let's stop and pause it right here. We need to be pro-white. We need to defend our people. We need to exist. We need to make sure that in 100 years, there will still be white people, that there will still be white countries with their distinct heritage and culture and languages and their political power and sovereignty intact. You must be in favor of this or you are our enemy. Period. End of story. So don't come around with this bullshit where Tucker comes on and says, I love Israel. I'm pro-Israel, but I don't like this identity politics for white people. Take your fucking badge and shove it up your faggot ass. I'm so sick of it. You attacked my father. Your dad ran Voice of America. And who the fuck even are you, pal? It's still white up in Maine where you live. Not down in Portland, not where we are, not in Chicago, not in California, not in New York. When you are a multi-millionaire flying between your residences on your private jet in the middle of nowhere, Maine, in the middle of nowhere, Florida, you can afford to be in favor of those universal principles. Go try that in any other city. See how far that gets you. Come to Chicago. Try that out in Garfield Park. Try that out in Pilsen. See how far that gets you. Universal principles. Fuck you. White people need to get stronger. White people need to get a lot stronger. That's what we need to do. Because we are dying and no one seems to be aware of that. People are playing games. Telling white people, go back to bed, go back to sleep. Telling white people, hey, we're going to bring the cost of housing down. Housing? How about our country? Where are the houses located? That's what drives me crazy. And there's sort of a rich irony in there. This is not about housing. This is about our home.
And that's kind of the gist of the clip there. I would see there's kind of two things and two reasons I wanted to put that forward. The first was, it seemed the first half of what he was saying in the clip there was a response to Tucker Carlson. And I believe this was, it wasn't the All In podcast. I forget where Tucker Carlson said this. It might have even been at AmFest the first day. But Tucker Carlson, once again, is getting up on a pedestal and he's pushing back against the white identity, which is one of the clear identifying, differences between the message between Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. And so I think that's partly what's underpinning Nick's kind of fire in the response there. But the second thing, and maybe more or less important to kind of articulate, is the fact that the housing prices are one thing, but it wouldn't even be much to say, granted, if the houses were affordable, but we were still living amidst Little Mexico, Little India, Little Somalia, it still would be the idea that we still don't feel like we are in our own home. And he extends on this in a longer clip, which is to say, like, we're becoming bastards in our own home, in our own country, that every other identity, every other group, every other tribe is being served, wined and dined and dished and put up on a pedestal, but it's the peoples whose own ancestors shed blood and are buried in the soil here who are being treated as if they don't belong here. And I think that's one thing that does need to be pushed a bit more, which is it's not just the message is about disaffected young men and the economy being out of hand. It's about the economy's out of hand and it doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like we're losing our connection to the land we are born upon. But with that being said, I'll push it over to you, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest contradiction in all this is really what Tucker is there for. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Netanyahu just got an upgrade. But Tucker Carlson has been a journalist. He's been in the media for like 35 years. And why is he just talking about this now? Is it because he's seen the light? Maybe. Is it because he's brave? Absolutely not. Because let's be honest, this issue has been going on for a long, long time. And it's only now the youth are really the ones starting to realize it. The youths are the ones going to public schools where it's just degenerate teachers, degenerate students running amok. They're the ones living with it. All these old people that grew up in anywhere between the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I watched a movie the other day from the 90s, and there was a scene in an elementary school, and it was all blonde hair, blue-eyed, little kid running around, going to their lockers. That's not the reality anymore. And our children are going to grow up even worse than that if something's not done about it. And Tucker Carlson, maybe you could say, giving him the benefit of the doubt is maybe he's coming around on these things. We all here, we know he's not. But let's just say for the sake of argument, maybe he is.
Yeah.
He doubled down this past week talking about a book he wrote a few years ago saying how with all this identity politics, eventually one day you're going to see a guy running on white identity politics. And I'm going to say, fuck that guy. And he doubled down on that. Tucker Carlson is a spy. Tucker Carlson is a phony. Tucker Carlson is not on our side.
Agreed completely. Now I'm going to go rip this super chat real quick from Smelly Balls. He says, and thank you very much for the super chat. He says, Cooker red, Kabbalah bracelet fed Carlson. Agreed. And this is obviously something that we were early on sniffing out when we were looking at combined between the differences in the messages, when they were feeling each other out from the big expose, calling each other feds. And I think the point is clear now. And I think more often than not, I'm personally vindicated. As these kind of conversations were ensuing, the way I looked at it was like, I'm actually, because of the conversations happening, I'm more of belief that he's not an asset, given on what he's talking about in between punches from Ian Carroll and Tucker Carlson. That I think at this point, it's just like, if this is what the federal government wants, then maybe I agree with the feds, right? If the goal is Nick Fuentes to be a power champ here in the political game, then I guess I agree with the feds. In addition to that, there was a funny clip. It's a very, very short one. And I want to play this. This will wrap up Monday for us. But I don't know if Josh has seen this one yet. It's very funny. And so for those who watch Nick on Rumble very often, you're probably going to understand this. But here it is. If it works. There we go.
Mary Blaney sent $21. My son and I love your show and watch it all the time. He's always wanted to super chat you. We messaged you on X at Nick J. Fuentes commentary. Is that really you or someone else pretending to be you?
It's the account with 1 million followers. It's not the one with like, I don't even know, 5,000. It's at Nick J. Fuentes, the one that's in the bio of this channel. It's the one that has 1 million followers. Okay. That's my Twitter. Okay.
Audubon sent $20.
Which is funny, and maybe most people might not even get it, but it's funny because Nick Fuentes has some impersonators on Rumble, and one of them literally is Nick J. Fuentes commentary, and it's like an account that's got like 5,000 followers. And the super chat's asking like, hey, I sent you a message on there a few weeks ago, you didn't respond. It's like, I don't understand how Nick attracts so many retarded people in his audience, but he does. And it's funny to see in the super chats.
I think it's a case of most people are probably that retarded, but because Nick does not do advertisements and anyone can super chat in for what's the minimum, like $5.
Yeah.
And they can send him
Or 2, I
30
think.
characters. Yeah. Something like that. You would, if Tucker Carlson super chatted, if Candace Owens super chatted, you'd probably get worse or just as bad.
Dude, I would be dying at looking at Candace's super chats. I don't know if Tucker's would get that spicy.
It is kind of funny though, as like you've been watching Nick for what, like a little over a year now. I've been watching him since like 2017. Seeing the change in super chats since like the Tucker interview and since the generational run began, the quality change. They've never been great, but oh baby, some of these are astonishing.
He's went back a little bit to the more provocative, like abrasive, like more energetic, and I like those responses. But moving on to Tuesday, though. Tuesday, we got a kind of a weird incident, but I wanted to put it on air and play it for you guys because I think it's showing just how widespread this idea is coming across. Now, I'm not too familiar with who this individual is, but he goes by the name of Luke Hillman. And this Luke Hillman is supposedly Jewish. And he was interviewing a young white college student, and you might be surprised at one of these answers that he gave him right off the rip. So here's this one.
Jews, and because get the fuck out of here, dog. There's no way you believe that. Okay, for context, I was doing man on the street interviews at FAU, okay, talking to people about walkability, sustainability, and all this kind of stuff. Look at this blatant racism. Not one minimum wage job that can support a 2-bedroom apartment in America. What are your thoughts on that? Because of Jews and because get the fuck out of here, dog. There's no way you believe that. Yeah, bro. There's no way, bro. You think I'm the problem? Oh, you too. Oh, is that why you keep cutting? Is that why you keep cutting the video? No, but I'm just saying, like, bro, you think I'm the problem? Are you? No, for real, bro. Me to you. You think I'm the problem?
Are you an ethnic Jew?
Yes.
Okay. Do you practice Judaism?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't practice Judaism.
Yes, I do. I'm Jewish.
Do you practice it?
Dude, I have my bar mitzvah.
But are you consciously practicing Judaism? Do you read the Talmud? Do you do the?
Dude, brother?
What?
I'm just letting all of you guys know that Talmud this, Talmud that. I have been Jewish my entire life. Never once have I even known what the Talmud. No, just listen. Hold on. Listen.
He just said
I've
Jewish.
been Jewish my entire life. Get this off camera. I don't want this on camera. Okay. It's right here.
And that's where he cuts it off. He didn't want the conversation to be recorded any further beyond there, as he probably was going to explain how he practices Judaism. And I think the biggest takeaway that I had from that clip is just, it's everyone's doing it now. I mean, it's almost to the level of, it's like the Epstein files. Everyone kind of like knows a little bit of what's going on, all from different departments. Some people, the black community, they heard it from Kanye West. That's how they got red pilled. For others, it was Nick Fuentes. So it's kind of curious, Josh, your thoughts on this kind of overall mass noticing happening.
Yeah, well, first off, I had not seen this clip. I love how the came out, he's walking around, he's asking questions like this, and he's like, you really think I'm the problem here?
Yep.
Like, you can chin max all you want, it's coming out eventually. But it is kind of interesting to see this kind of stuff where, this guy in the video, I highly doubt he's a politically active person. He's just as political as your average Joe, like passive, sees TikTok reels. But it goes to show that the youth are totally, I don't know if but like they buy it now. The whole Holocaust guilt, it's worn off. By the year of our Lord 2025, the youth don't care anymore, and they're buying into it. They're seeing Nick's arguments. They're learning about the liberty, and it is what it is. It's coming.
The kids are going to be okay. Yeah, one video that I actually didn't include that would have been another good one was when his name's like Rory, I believe. It's like Rory Maxwell or something like that. I'm probably getting the last name completely wrong. But he was the one who was recently on AmFest pressing Ben Shapiro about the USS Liberty. Once again, getting the answer of why should we care about an irrelevant event that happened, 60 years ago, right? And it's like, well, how about we use your argument against you about, old events that we shouldn't care about? Then, in addition to that, after the event, and it was a really solid clip, he had another one where he gave even more context about why Ben Shapiro's answer is complete bullshit. And he was spot on. He was talking about how the USS Liberty was, the numbers were as broad, clear as day. He was talking about the weather conditions of that day, how it was super, it was sunny outside, it was clear. He was talking about how initially, after the first pole was damaged with the United States with the U.S. flag, they literally went to an alternate pole and raised another one as the attack continued for 90 minutes, being napalmed on the, I forget all the terms of a boat, but they were napalmed on the surface. And it's good stuff. And this is stuff that continually needs to be pushed at. And one thing that I think is kind of surprising me right now is it seems that the entire conservative movement is turning on Ben. And this couldn't have happened at a better time. Now, when I say that, it's also, not only is it coming from Nick Fuentes and Groypers in general, but a very outspoken moment from Tucker Carlson. But even further than that, Steve Bannon literally went up on stage and called him a cancer. And we'll explore that. We have those clips to go through too. And he also pushes it out to Mark Levin and others as well. You even have Candace Owens came out and obliterated Ben Shapiro. We'll cover that too. But then even Megyn Kelly, and I think for her being someone who's like a facilitator, is always wanting to be friendly with everybody. If you lose Megyn Kelly, I think you've lost everybody. And so I think that is a good kind of point to, or a good metric to look at, see where Ben Shapiro's at in the conservative movement. But moving on to Wednesday though, I think if we're going to explore Wednesday a little bit, this is where we get the hundreds of "Me Mum Died in the Holly." And so let's go ahead and play this clip here from Mr. Finkelstein.
What I probably wasn't completely ready for was that this was then followed by hundreds, possibly thousands. I only don't know that it's thousands because at a point, which is quite unusual for me, I actually stopped reading them because I found them quite distressing.
This is coming to you on X, is it?
On X, yeah. And it the reason it was distressing is less what it said about me, because I think, like you, I've developed, fairly thick skin about what people say about your columns and what you say about your politics, which is fair game because I'm also, pugnacious in things that I write. But because it was about my parents. Your mum is a pair of shoes, your dad's a lampshade. There was one tweet with my dad's, which I found particularly unpleasant, with my dad's head on a lampshade. There were hundreds and hundreds of "Me Mum Died in the Holly," right? Which is something that Fuentes had said subsequently on one of his broadcasts.
I think the reason why I like this so much is because he's clearly out and about basically begging for sympathy, begging for like pity votes, going on these podcasts. And what he's getting is the complete opposite. He's getting edit upon edit upon edit. And I can't tell you how many different musical versions of "Me Mum Died in the Holly" I've heard since Wednesday, but it is hilarious. And I think this is one of these other signs that is showing that across the board, people are not being packed back into this corner of everything needs to take a backseat to the Holocaust. And so I kind of want to hear from you, Josh, your thoughts about Mr. Finkelstein.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there with this guy. It's we talked about this before. The guy is old, but is he that old that his mom was in it? How old was she when this went down? Was she like 14 or something? I don't know, but
right.
Very suspicious. And it like we said before with the last clip, it just goes to show that like the anti-Semites won the meme war. The Hitler edits, the speeches translated to English and its repercussions have been detrimental for this narrative. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it just goes to show that like the edginess is still out there, and these boomers, they're just out of touch. Even like this guy. Okay, you know what? If his claims about his family are true, okay, sure, I get him being upset. But like average boomers, like worshiping at the feet of this narrative, it just goes to show that like how out of touch they are. Where the youth, no one cares anymore.
Right.
Get that boy in stripe. Quit making boy in stripe pajamas. Make more Christian movies.
Right. Well, I kind of think of, Gen Z in quick order was like one-shotted by, Osama's letter to America. And then like a year later, here's translated Hitler speeches. And it's like, oh, wow, we're all hearing from the other side for the first time. And I love that, and I do think that's something that I'm really glad for one of the uses of AI before it's ultimately all packed in and used to continue the global homo agenda. But it's a good tool while it lasted. And I think it kind of provided an open opportunity, as little as this window of opportunity may be. I think it was just enough to kind of give a bit of the right wing or conservative group and just the future generations a bit of hope. And to move on to something that I think we kind of missed a little bit in the beginning, and I don't want to let this be understated. On Monday, actually, and I can't believe I completely forgot about this. On Monday was coming away from the Candace Owens and Erica Kirk sit down, which was the 4.5-hour conversation that took place where, in my belief, and I think this is what Nick Fuentes laid out as well, where TPUSA and Erica and their lawyers basically probably threatened Candace Owens with defamation for continuing any claims about people related to TPUSA, probably revolving around Erica herself, TPUSA in general as the organization, Andrew Colvett, Tyler Bauer. And that does seem to match up with what Candace's rhetoric was coming away from that, which was maintaining the skepticism that Tyler Robinson, did he pull the trigger, did he not, while also backing away from all of the more maybe abrasive TPUSA claims. And that seems to track. And also in addition to there too, that is a bit telling that they had said, and now we know that TPUSA and Erica Kirk did not see any other additional footage that the public has not already seen. So that either means two things. One, there's no footage, or if it did exist, nobody has it. Well, three things. Two, Jack Posobiec and others lied about seeing said footage, and I think that this is a marker of who they are in their careers. But on top of it all, is that there is also a general possibility now that there is footage that may be ultimately damning to Tyler Robinson, and they're saving it for the May 26th probable cause case to fully lay out why Tyler Robinson is the person. So with that all being said, I do think there are some important points from that. But to where Nick picked back up on it, Nick went hard on Candace Owens as kind of backing away. And I'll play this in particular for a favor for a friend who thought this was hilarious. It's one of the first Nick clips he'd ever seen. And I do think it's pretty funny myself too, but here it is.
So what happened to the big bad Candace Owens? I think that's what everybody's wondering. What happened to that cockiness? What happened to the swaggering Candace Owens? For 3 months, this negress, this uppity black woman, has been going on her YouTube and bobbing her head. I'm going to name names. That doesn't work for me. What you mean? What you mean? That ain't work with my timeline. What you mean? I got the names. You don't want to fuck with me, nigga. We've been hearing that for 3 months. We have been hearing this uppity ignoramus for 3 months, bobbing her head, cocky. Hey, yo, I got names. Don't you try. Don't play with me. Where'd she go? Where'd that Candace go? Where is she? What happened? Did they replace her with a body double? Is it AI? Check her earlobes. Check her earlobes. Did they replace her? Because we got a very different Candace Owens. Today, we got a Candace Owens who is sort of nervous, saying, hi, guys, Shabbat Shalom. Everyone's saying I sold out. What do you mean? That's not true. Those are bots saying that. I still believe there's a conspiracy. What happened? What happened to that same energy? She went into the meeting with this energy, giddy, grinning, smiling. Erica Kirk, she's talking about me. I know she's talking about me. I'm going to set her straight. I'm going to ask my questions. Tell me where I lied, she said. Then she goes in the meeting, whole different attitude. Changed her tune. She comes out of the meeting, whole different attitude. Erica's the best. Turning Point's innocent. It's just some people in Turning Point might be bad because, we don't know, but we know it feels off. What happened? So what?
I thought that was a particularly funny clip myself too, especially the opening portion of the head bobbing and the sassy black woman. And I think obviously now at this point it's generally just gloating. I think obviously Nick does not like Candace Owens, specifically for the ambush that had occurred. But I'm kind of curious, Josh, where you're at with the whole kind of Candace Owens, TPUSA, everything.
Well, I'm surprised Candace did not see this coming in a dream. She's got all these prophetic dreams. She didn't see this coming. She didn't see that having a private meeting with Erica Kirk's lawyers. Maybe it came down to them holding a defamation lawsuit over her head. Oh no, I guess God forgot to send that email or something. Unlike the Charlie showing up to her. Charlie didn't warn her about it beforehand. But I mean, honestly, when it comes to this whole thing, Nick said it best, where basically Candace has created a monster and it has gotten away from her now. And like he said, the nervous, like, oh, Shabbat Shalom, they got to me. JK. That's exactly what it is. They got to her, and what deal they came to, who knows? What they showed her, who knows? But the point is it's like, it's about the bottom line for her.
Right.
And this is just gone to show that. And honestly, so I'll be honest. Nick has been going really hard against Candace recently, saying that he's basically been calling her evil.
Mm.
And me, I think that's a heavy word. I don't throw it around a whole lot. But honestly, with seeing how she's handled it and the reaction to it, I'm leaning more towards that. Like at first I thought maybe this was just kind of an overreaction. Nick is bolstering this sort of heat to, for attention. But honestly, I mean, when you run the risk of creating this golem, so to speak, and then you let it get out of hand, you are to blame for that. And I think he's absolutely right on this.
Well, the unfortunate thing with that is, I mean, Barry Weiss has already vocalized it, which is that we need a more effective censorship mechanism to handle situations like Candace Owens. And I think she also named Tucker Carlson, but largely Candace Owens for driving conspiracy theories. And this is what I fear the most. And I think I'll say it for like the 10th time. Ultimately, in my prediction is that Tyler Robinson will be found not guilty. And what they will do is they will lay that at the feet of Candace Owens. They will say, you are the reason why the prosecution or why they had a mistrial or why they had such a difficult time finding him guilty. And then that will be the pretext that lends itself to being, look how these crazy conspiracies affect the real world. It's like, look, we need to have a better way to be able to tell people like Candace Owens or suppress her in some format. And that's ultimately going to be used for the benefit of suppressing everybody. I mean, literally all things. It's not just going to obviously be about Candace Owens. And that's what I do fear is maybe she's partly proud of being a part of that too. Because I really don't know. Part of the times I do think that she may be an asset, but also she could just be an idiotic political whore at the end of the day. And maybe it is just a matter of like whatever she thinks the political winds are blowing, she's talking about, which could be very good or also very bad. It just depends on how that black woman is feeling that day. And when I will say this too, we have about 130 people watching, only 45 likes. I'm going to assume that you guys like watching Ben Shapiro instead. Otherwise, smash the like button or you're gay. One other one I wanted to go to before we made it too further into the kind of the meat of the week is another clip that went decently viral, but it was contested a little bit. And this was, again, going at Candace Owens from Nick, but this was talking about the way that she was talking to Tim Pool. And this kind of goes more into the frame of how should a woman behave herself? How should a woman publicly, engage in behavior? And this is kind of more on the lines between men and women. And it was curious because I saw a lot of guys get irritated. I mean, one in particular reacted to it just angry, saying like, who is Nick to tell, Candace Owens how to talk, et cetera, et cetera. And so since it was one of the most controversial clips, I figured we might as well play it. So here it is.
Candace is calling Tim Pool a faggot. It's one thing if a man calls Tim Pool a faggot. I don't want to hear women calling men faggots. That's disgusting. And honestly, George Farmer needs to put his wife in her place. Could you imagine your wife has a show in the first place, then your wife is emasculating other men? Tim Pool, by the way, say what you want about him. This guy has been shot at And I hate to say it because me and Tim Pool have not had a good relationship and we disagree on a lot of things. But Tim Pool actually faces the music. He's out there. He was out there facing Antifa 10 years ago as a citizen journalist. He's out there at his compound getting shot at. And he doesn't back down. When he gets shot at, he doesn't go and shrivel up and complain. Who are you? You're somebody's wife? You're some woman? He's a faggot. He's not gay, but he's a pussy. Oh my goodness. Women should not feel so comfortable talking about men like that in public, especially men that are not their husbands. A married woman is going out and attacking other men like this, mouthing off to other men. If I were Tim Pool, I would say, hey, George, can I beat the fuck out of your wife or are you going to do it? What kind of man will entertain that? What kind of man should even be expected to entertain that? You're a public figure. You're a man. Some black woman is attacking your masculinity. You're going to sit there and argue? It's like, hey, George, can I slap your wife or are you going to do your job? And I'm not encouraging violence against women, but that's totally out of line. That is totally inappropriate. And that is part of the problem. It's that women have no accountability. They talk like men. They have jobs like men. They lead like men. But unlike men, no accountability.
So I'll throw it to you, Josh. I want to know what your thoughts are.
Dude, 100%. I mean, it's like we say all the time. Women these days, especially conservative women, want all of this Little House on the Prairie treatment. They want, I want my husband to be a provider so I can stay at home with the kids, which is great and all, but they don't want any of the accountability. As always, the women don't want the accountability. And I think Nick is absolutely right in this case where, excuse me, you can say whatever you want about Tim Pool. And we can even speculate about the whole shooting thing. Is it real? Is it not? Who knows? But for her to go out and call him a faggot over that, it is ridiculous. Like, that is completely inappropriate. And honestly, we should add Candace Owens to the preamble and outro. Ban Candace Owens from public life.
Yeah.
If you can't take the heat, sweetheart, get back in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, he's spot on literally all the elements. And I think this gets closer to what I've been continually bringing up, which is the fact that the conservative party is just as bad on what is woman question as the left is. Now, the left is obviously doing it and driving it for, sexual reasons and kinks and fetishes and whatnot for, the mutilation of their genitals. But the right proposes that woman can be a man in essence. Don't change your biology, but you can be everything a man can be. And Nick's completely spot on there too, which is, and I don't know if he'd said it in that specific clip, but he said it later on in that show, which was like, when men say stuff to other men, there's a threat of violence. Like if I walk up to a random dude and I call him a faggot, there is a threat of violence. It is, I know that potentially by saying something that is offensive, my life could be under threat. And women typically don't operate under that. Now there's different scenarios where it's like, regardless of what gender, if you flip somebody off on the road, people with road rage kind of is a bit genderless because you're in a car, it kind of takes away a bit the humanity. But in most situations, like in a bar, a loudmouth woman's simply going to be told or asked to leave, but a loudmouth man might get rocked in the face. And so these differences obviously imply, again, the incentive structure, and behavior is largely based on incentive or disincentives. And this is why men are a lot more accountable out in public, is because they know they are held accountable through threat of violence, not because anytime you say something offensive, you will get punched, but it's there's a possibility there. And women typically operate under the fact that it's just not generally there, unless it's, white women sitting in front of a black man, then it's a whole different scenario. But one thing I also want to add too, as a last point on Candace before we move on, is there is probably a potential expose coming from Nick on Candace, and I would encourage people who are on the Candace side still to familiarize themselves with that a little bit. That way you can defend your black queen to the end. But the point is that she did sue her ex-boyfriend for racism. That was one of the starts that got her a good bit of money. She also did sue one of her previous landlords and then made up a claim about black mold. She also did dox conservatives by working and helping build the website that is called Social Autopsy. And then she basically, in the last few years, has grifted her way from Blexit with TPUSA onto the Daily Wire, and then here she is right now. I do not find Candace Owens to be a trustworthy person by any means at all. And one other thing I would add here too, because Tuesday's show is pretty big, but we're going to get to the hardest stuff here later in the week, actually, is the new element, which is the idea that the Trump administration put forward this checking mechanism of seeing your social media post if you are anti-Semitic, not allowing you into America if they deem you to be anti-Semitic, digging up the last 5 years of your social media records, your addresses, your phone numbers. And it's everything that I and many others thought it would be, which is this is no element or action to determine if people are American or anti-American, which was the initial idea. And what it only became is exactly what was in the handbook, which was we don't have a strong definition for what an American is, but we have a good idea of what anti-Semitic is. And so we'll use that as a proxy for someone being anti-American. Now, what does that say about your nation? And so Nick had a clip talking about how he knows people personally who have been already denied being able to come into the United States on a tourism visa because they were deemed to be too anti-Semitic. And I would imagine a good portion of those coming from European countries. And, but is there anything you wanted to add to that, Josh, before moving on?
I mean, excuse me. You said we're about to go into a clip about that.
I can play the clip if you want to air it.
Yeah. Go ahead and play it first.
Yeah. Here's the clip. Yeah, this is just a short one, and this is him talking about knowing the people personally who were not allowed into the United States. Here it is.
The administration is so obsessed with anti-Semitism. Think about it. I know people personally who cannot get into the United States on a tourism visa. They can't buy a plane ticket because someone in the State Department or in the Homeland Security Department reviewed their social media and determined that they are anti-Semitic. That's where the attention is at. FBI, DHS, state, all these federal departments, they're so preoccupied with what are they doing on the universities? They're making sure that no one can ever protest in the name of Palestine. They're deploying resource officers and anti-Semitism liaisons, and they want to change the curriculum in the Middle East Studies Department. That's the priority. Someone walks into a building and starts shooting people in the face, he gets away. But if you're in Europe and you criticize Israel, they're on it. You try to buy a plane ticket, they're on it. You can't come in. That's the focus.
I'm actually glad that you did have me play that clip, because one of these other elements that I had forgotten about was the Brown University shooter. And it's not even just now the Brown University shooter, although let's zoom out a little bit. The Brown University shooter was initially reported that there's only like a 4 or 5 second video of him. That's all they had. In the early period, it looked like the university was protecting him. His literal LinkedIn profile was made private while I was live on Offensively Accurate a couple of days ago. And then that quickly turned into now a amalgamation of stories, which is now you have to bring in the MIT. I don't know if he was a nuclear physicist or what his actual kind of title was, but this man who was assassinated, who had been working with the MIT or was at the MIT, was working in like the nuclear program or engineering or some aspect of that. And now it's being reported by Israel that they are publicly investigating the connection between Iran and Brown University in the MIT shooting, all linked. And they do believe that it's Iran that did it, which in other words is another way to say that Israel did it. And that's kind of the situation that we're looking at, is also, while everything else is going on, Brown University shooter, we still don't have him. It seems like we're still at large. I think there's now 2 persons of interest they're looking at. But what are we actually getting? We're getting Cash Patel and Alexis Wilkins going on a podcast with Katie Miller, of all people, to talk about why people are blowing things too out of the water about his private jet trips and the girlfriend being a honeypot. All in all, being a terrible and awful look for the FBI, being more of the same, and what we got from Comey and everyone else that preceded him too. Before I keep rambling, do you have something you want to say on that, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically why I wanted to play the clip, because I remember the Brown University thing, and it just goes to show, we talked about this last week, how Donald Trump's FBI didn't find Tyler Robinson. His family turned him in, and now we're going on 1 week almost, and they can't find the Brown University shooter. But Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Hey, can't get into the country. And this is actually something I was thinking about when reviewing this clip. We brought up, or we will get to, and I'm sure everyone has seen the Mark Levin thing, where Mark Levin is he's manhandling Donald Trump, saying this is the first Jewish president. We've all seen it. And then we get this idea in our heads that Donald Trump is a hostage to these people, which there definitely is some elements to that, like no doubt. But I genuinely think in Donald Trump's heart of hearts, he wants to appease these people. I think he wants to prove to them how pro-Semitic he is. I don't think that the DHS or DOJ, whatever, that they're doing this because they're hostage to Israel. I think their heart is in it. I think they genuinely, this is the most important thing to them.
Yeah, I guess with the Trump element, there's kind of two schools of thought, and I really don't know which side of the fence that I personally sit on. If you go back to early 2017, the article and what started a lot of the idea of Trump being Jewish was, I believe it was reported by the New York Post, in a sense now claimed to be false article, was that Trump had converted to Judaism way back in 2017, I believe at the behest of Jared Kushner. Now, I'm saying that again with the belief or with the idea that they had later said it was false. This is not true. But later on from there, it was Ivanka Trump who had converted to Judaism, which is now you have multiple members who are converting, to where what we got with Mark Levin. And this manhandling, Trump literally just verbatim saying, I'm Jewish. It's true. Yep, I love Israel. So there's that school of thought, which is he doing it willingly? Is it more of a facade and he's full in, he's opted in, he's buying what they're selling? Or is it more of the hostage situation? Is it more of the fact that his back was against the wall with 4 pending federal cases against him in 4 different states? Well, I think one was actually state, the New York one. And with the fear or the idea that if I go to jail, it's probably over for me. I'm not going to be president. I don't even know if I'll make it out of jail alive. And here comes, falling out of the sky $250 million from the Adelsons. I mean, is there a part of that he's bribed in, essentially? He's paying back to his donors who basically saved and rescued him. And then that extends itself to what's now being reported and being thrown out, which I believe is from both Alan Dershowitz and Miriam Adelson now, that there is a pledge, or it's reported that they've pledged another $250 million to President Trump if he seeks a 3rd term. And so now there's a lot of these things moving that it does seem to be maybe they want to rope him in to kind of finish what they have started. Either way, I think when you look at some things where when Trump publicly says he's fucking me in reference to Benjamin Netanyahu and the way that he kind of just doesn't give a shit what the United States tells Israel to do, there are signs that I think it points more to a hostage situation than that he's doing it willingly. Although I wouldn't completely bury the idea that he's may possibly have been converted. And also I just liken this to a little bit of what I'd recently went through with my grandfather. And not to say that's any statement on my grandfather at all. But there does come a point when I think you do get so old, some of that stuff becomes less tangible. It's less able to grasp, the idea of heaven, and especially if you're not well versed in it, you didn't grow up as a Christian. And I see a little bit of that with Donald Trump, when his statements I want to go to heaven, or I really don't know if I'm going to make it into heaven. Because I do think there is a plea there from him that he knows when some element, what he's doing or what he's done is wrong. But what level that is and what he's maybe actually talking about from the deep side, from the inside, what that is, I'm not really too sure. But to moving on from there, did you have a response to that? You want me to keep moving?
No, I get where you're coming from. I think the convert to Judaism thing, it's probably in excuse me, in his mind, it's not a genuine conversion. I mean, we've all seen him wear the funny hat, and it's kind of like how when he says we need to stop saying happy holidays, we need to say Christmas, we need to say Christ. We will defend every Christian. We will defend our God in this nation. Donald Trump isn't Christian. Right. He says that because he knows that's what we want to hear. And I guarantee it's the same thing. I mean, he has this boomer mindset about everything, about race, about the Jews, about Judaism itself. So I think he thinks he's doing a reasonable amount of things to appease these people, and he gets pissed at Netanyahu when Netanyahu says it's not enough.
Right.
But
Right.
I do think that the Levins and the Kushners, the American Jewish lobby, I think they are there to ease the tension. They are there to sell what Netanyahu is doing to Donald Trump himself.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, especially knowing like how it's obviously all permeating like in the mainstream. Because you would have to imagine they have people like, on standby. It's part of the reason why, you see these accounts on X now that are the rapid response, like FBI rapid response, and it's literally just there to, to defend Kash Patel's actions. Like they're very well and aware of like what people are saying. And so I think that's partly what precludes it, is they know what the American people are going to say, especially when it comes to Israel, given the fact that we're reaching the mass noticing. I think it's a good thing. And I am looking forward to Donald Trump being impeached because of the Epstein files. And right now they're working on Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are putting legislation to impeach Pam Bondi. So hopefully that goes through.
Hey, I know I said last night I didn't think it would happen, but after seeing that, I hope it does.
Yeah.
Get her out of here.
Yeah, and I'll touch on the Epstein files a little bit when we get closer to the end here. But moving on to Wednesday, though, they got a bit forward-looking because Nick Fuentes went on InfoWars with Alex Jones. And this was, I think, when Nick was starting to get sick. I don't think he had a show both Thursday or Friday. Actually, he has the flu. So majority of what we're going to be looking at is actually statements made when he was kind of away by a lot of other people, namely Ben Shapiro and Vivek Ramaswamy. But when Nick went on InfoWars, one of the topics that I think was very good that they had covered was they were talking about what does 2026 and 2028 look like. And I think it was a good sign to also hear Alex Jones come onto the bandwagon a little bit with Nick Fuentes. And also shout out to Alex Jones, regardless of what you think about him. Having Nick on what seems to be like for the 20th time, like during this generational run, has been like a huge boon from Alex. And so like I'm thankful that he's, given Nick that platform. But here it is. This is kind of a shorter clip. There's a longer one you can go and find, but this one's a bit more succinct, and we'll go ahead and play this one. Here it is.
Right now, what is the state of the union right now? What does Trump need to do tonight versus what do you predict he does?
Well, I think the state of the union is very bad right now. When you look at what was promised in 2024, it was supposed to be a golden age, no new wars, close the border, all this sort of stuff. And I think everybody realizes at this point that that has not happened. And it doesn't even seem that the administration is trying very hard. And what's sad about it is it seems that the administration doesn't even know where to go after this. As you said, it is an objective fact. It's not subjective opinion. It's not blackpilling. The administration has its lowest approval since Trump got back into office. I think it's down to 39%. That's one of the lowest numbers we've had since the first term. And you see that the administration seems to not really know how to bounce back. And we talked about it shortly after the off-year election back in November. Trump administration is totally fumbling from one thing after the next, flopping around with the Epstein files. Then you had the Marjorie Taylor Greene leaving Congress. Now you have this post about Rob Reiner, who was brutally murdered at his home in Hollywood. And these are all things that not only are they not winning back the whole country, let's say like the middle or the coalition that propelled Trump into office in 24, but it's even losing Trump's most virile supporters, his biggest and loudest supporters, people like Marjorie Greene. Why is she not on the team? People that wanted transparency on Epstein files. Why are they not on the coalition? And, stuff like that post on True Social. I don't know anybody that likes that. I don't know anybody that thinks that's acceptable. So
well, let's be clear.
The
We love
administration,
Trump attacking powerful globalists like Hillary, saying he'll be in prison. But it's an obvious no-brainer. I put a video out saying I was sad he was dead because I genuinely was, even though I didn't like Rob Reiner and he'd gotten me deplatformed and celebrated it, been involved with Brennan doing it. I said he was still a talented guy. I'm sorry he's dead. But even from a cynical view, say something nice about a man and woman brutally murdered by their son. Like, it's the dumbest move. So you have to ask about a 79-year-old Trump. I don't think it's dementia. I don't think he's, but regardless, he's making very bad decisions. I mean, that is just as a microcosm. What a crazy PR decision.
well, he's floundering. He's floundering. And I think like we talked about last time, sadly, it seems like he has fully engaged the old playbook, which is that he's in trouble. He knows he's in trouble. The approval ratings are down. His base seems to be leaving him a little bit. And whenever that happens, he always doubles down on mean tweets, let's say, as a category. Not necessarily a mean post on Twitter, although that is how it is expressed and how it manifests. But he doubles down on cruelty, culture war, laying into his enemies, ranting on television. And that used to be a playbook that worked, I think, back in the first administration or even in that first election in 2016. But now it seems like he sort of lost his touch. It's kind of tone deaf. Whereas at one time he was bringing that fight against, like you said, the globalists, somebody like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. Who's he attacking now? Now it's anybody that wanted Epstein files. Now it's Marjorie Greene, who is one of his people, who is like one of the first MAGA congressmen that rode that wave.
She made
after
that
his
point
original
yesterday. It's on record. She's right. He has all these Republicans in that vote against him, but they kiss his ass. And then she votes 98% of the time with him, but warns him. And then he turns on her and calls her a traitor. That is so stupid. And it hurt him bad in the polls. Like, that's dumb.
Not only is it dumb, I think one of the things I would add in there too that came from the longer clip from this was the idea of, look, when Nick said, look how the MAGA revolution materialized. There's nobody in the halls of Congress that represents MAGA. You know, when you even think about the ones, you think about like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Madison Cawthorn, gone. You know, they're not there anymore. They're not even in the picture anymore. But, you know, and I think Nick references Adam Schiff will be going up for another term. You know, it's like the swamp remained. It was like all of the people who should have materialized and then filled the seats aren't there. And I think that is heavily, heavily, heavily indicative of the fact that he entirely lost the groundswell. You know, there wasn't any kind of grassroots people who believed so intently in the message of Donald Trump that they put themselves in a position to continue it. And in fact, where he's at right now, part of the reason why he's flailing and floundering is he was surrounded, and for whatever reason, he is now surrounded by those who actually hate him, his own enemies. And thus, it's confused him to the point where he's turning on people who are his friends, his allies. And this is why we're in the position that we're in. And Alistair goes to say, too, you know, the Rob Reiner bringing that post up again, it does speak to the hollowness of where Trump is at right now. And that kind of reach of almost like, who was that for, right? Who do you think was going to, you know, be banging on the drum and saying, wow, what a great post about Rob Reiner. And he's like entirely lost, not even just his touch. I think he's, because of the situation he's in, like his finger's not even on the pulse anymore. And he's just, it's basically, we're just waiting for it to blow up even worse right now.
Oh, dude, absolutely. And Zeb and I have talked about that before, how I guarantee that even his like phone, like the messages he gets, what he sees on Twitter, there's no way that they are not catering it. There's no way that it's like you and me when we log on to Twitter and we just are exposed to the raw algorithm. They are, his feed is like, they probably have a team on it. You know, I guarantee that's all that can explain how out of touch he is. And also, kind of an aside, I know I mentioned it yesterday on the other show, but this situation with Rob Reiner has only validated, in my mind, Nick's claims about how we retake power in this nation, and how and disputing with this idea that you need at least 50% of the country to win, because that's never going to happen. That's not how it works. And the truth is like this situation with all the balls that Trump is fumbling, and with just like, pause. Okay, Rob Reiner, there's no shortage. Yeah, pause. There's no shortage. There's no shortage of liberals that have bad things to say about Donald Trump. And right. Okay, the guy who directed The Princess Bride and Stand By Me and Misery, like you're gonna literally, his body's not even in the ground, and you're teabagging him,
right?
And that's one thing. So Trump's reaction to it is one thing. What has been, I know, you're welcome, everybody. What's been astonishing to me is the response from your basic boomer conservatives to this. I have had people on the radio show I work for, regular callers that are hardcore, dyed-in-the-wool Christian conservatives, you know, good old boys from down south, call into the show and say, well, maybe Rob was saying things that we didn't know about. Well, this is just this is what I voted for. Donald Trump, he's always been belligerent. Mm-hmm. and it's like the blind loyalty and defense of this,
right,
of all the things that he has screwed up. It just goes to show, it's like power does not come from the bottom up. Let's be honest. And that's why it's going to take, we only have to win one election.
Right.
Then we don't have to worry about the rest.
You only have to win hearts and minds once. And,
right.
You know, the Rob Reiner thing, you know, I'm not somebody who gets like, you know, too sensitive or emotional or offended by anything at all. But I think it's more so the fact of like, he's not even on X. Like he's on Truth Social and has been. I mean, we see Donald Trump's post on X because there's an account that's called Donald Trump Commentary that just screen grabs all of the posts on Truth Social and puts them on X. I mean, so he's already kind of built himself into, you know, an echo chamber around a bunch of sycophants because like I don't use Truth Social and I don't really know anybody sane person that does. And so if you're offended by that, good. Then I think that's also like there's already like a bunch of layers to that, like where he gets his information from. And I think there was even like a photo that came out early in this presidency that showed like a young lady who was like right next to him, who was like on his phone. And I think that's like, it's obvious, like someone's writing the post for him, or at least double checking what he's writing before he sends it through. And so I can't really imagine that, you know, and the claim against Trump is like, he's never like on his phone, like he's tweeting and replying to people. That's more JD Vance. Trump has been the guy who he watches and he sees what's on Fox News. And I think that's still where his metric of like, and his barometer of everything. And even on Fox News, they're still glazing him left and right. They're parroting everything from the Trump administration too, which is, I think it validates what everybody said about Fox News, you know, back in 2020, right? Which is they are just basically there to be the defenders of Donald Trump. They're not really there to provide a actual kind of conservative viewpoint. And it's unfortunate because that's the way these things go. Obviously, mainstream media is so cucked to, you know, this faux conservatism. And I would even go one step further. I would say, even in addition to what you had said, those guys calling into the radio show, this is where the conservative right has moved itself. It is entirely void of Christianity. Christianity doesn't exist in the mainstream conservative movement right now, and it doesn't. And it's largely made up of a bunch of people like James Lindsay and Brandon Straka and Scott Pressler. Those are like a lot of these big mega pundits, these big faces in the conservative movement, but they're all walk away people. They're all people who are just like, well, I think the trans stuff goes a little too far. Well, I'm a Republican now. And it's like, no, you're fucking not. But nobody said that. And in fact, people like Charlie Kirk welcomed it in and they said homosexuality, we welcome that now. Didn't you hear the Bible changed? And it's like, bro, what are we doing? And so this kind of continual degradation of the conservative movement has led for people like that I know in real life who are hardcore Christians that are like, I just can't support it anymore. And they get that kind of cognitive dissonance of like, I can't back these people who are clearly and overtly like not pushing for Christian conservative values and are in fact just, they are like the what's in party now. And then you see the way they reference jokes and the way you see Piers Morgan talking about Nick Fuentes and his virginity, you know, using it as a, you know, laughing at him. But he's a Catholic too. And it's like, really, how does that make sense? But again, I'm probably preaching to the choir for most people here who are already well aware of all of that. And one of the funny thing too, I don't know if we play the clip, but Alex Jones did pressure Nick to marry Laura Loomer also later on in that same InfoWars clip, which I thought was funny. And no joke, Alex hadn't realized or hadn't been privy to the Laura Loomer was engaged. She was engaged earlier that day. And people have been making the meme with like that. What's that guy's name? Like Nick or Cash Money Nick or something. It's that big guy with the big Jew nose. I
don't think I know that.
I can't think what his name is. His profile picture is like a dog, but he's like, I'm saying this as a man too, but like most people would agree. He's like objectively like horrendous to look at. He's like this massive nose. Most people are just like pinning it as that because Laura Loomer posted the photo with the picture blurred. So people were guessing of like who she married. And it's funny because Alex Jones said, you know, some idiot. that's who married Laura Loomer. And I thought that was pretty funny. And so I guess we're going to get ready to move into the real red meat of the show, which is the fact that we are potentially probably getting ready to walk into Groyper War 3. And that is going to be the main meat of the show and probably what it will be taking over the broad news cycle as we get further away from the Charlie Kirk assassination and we get further into 2026 and 2028 and so on. And we're going to put this up on screen for you guys. This was the beginning of Vivek's second crash out on Christmas. Let me put it up on screen here. And it was parts of a New York Times article. In a New York Times op-ed, and I'll just read it here for you. It says the former GOP presidential candidate said Nick Fuentes and his supporters have, quote, no place in the conservative movement. And this sprung a response not to the article, but Vivek had a clip that Nick had responded to that said, see you in Ohio. And many people took that as the calling card that we are now engaging in Groyper War 3 against Vivek Ramaswamy. But before I ramble on a bit further, I'll give Nick, I will give we're on, let me check it. Are we back? Are we back?
Can you hear me?
Are we back?
Hello?
Okay, we're back. Dude, my computer's been having so many technical issues, dude. Lord have mercy. Oh my gosh.
So you can see me and you can hear me? Because I can't see you. I can hear you though.
Oh, you can't see me?
Not on my window. Okay, there it goes. There it goes.
We back? Are we back? Oh, we're so fucking back.
We're back, baby.
Okay, I think we're good. Hopefully it's not going to be lagging too much.
Mossad is attacking us. There was actually a outage, an internet outage in my neck of the woods, and I thought that's what it was, but I'm in the chat also, and they said it was universal. So, all right. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I'm seeing if we are lagging. You might have to leave and rejoin, actually, because I think you're lagging behind. Oh, that's unfortunate. It is lagging. Apologies, guys. At least the audio looks like it's being functional. But I will get Josh back in here. Apologies. I really don't know what's been going on with the internet here lately. And back in black. Yeah, that's funny. Losing your virginity is an advertisement for contraception. Okay, some people are saying everything looks fine on their end. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's actually lagging on my personal phone, though, which is why I was a little concerned. But if you guys think it's okay, we'll continue. We don't really have another option at this point. Yes, I can. I'm getting Josh in right now. Can Josh hear me is the question.
I can hear you. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right.
What was the question?
All right.
Oh, Vivek. Yes.
Yes.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Dude, I am so hyped for this because I remember when Nick went on with Tucker and he went on with all these people. He basically said, he was like, and this is what people were clowning on him and saying he was a Fed, is because he said, I'll work with these people if they don't disavow me. He said, I'll work with JD Vance if he does not disavow America first. And I remember people thinking, whoa, this is a switch up. But oh, how glorious it is where Vivek Ramaswamy gets on a stage in front of God and everybody and says, Heritage Americans is anti-American. The idea of Heritage Americans are anti-American. Okay, Brahmin, let's now do India. Now do the caste system. And he denounced Nick Fuentes by name, which is a big no-no.
Right.
Groyper curse imminent. And he doubled down and denounced the idea of Heritage Americans. And it's so obvious why. Because he is not one. Because Vivek Ramaswamy is an anchor baby. You brought this up on Offensively Accurate, how his parents have been here for 40 years and they're not citizens yet they're here legally. What does that even mean? They're not. Right. What is that? And of course, Vivek Ramaswamy, what a coinky dink. He is totally on board for all of the policies that benefits Indians, specifically his caste. The H-1B visa programs,
yep.
and everything to boot.
Yeah. So, the Vivek thing is insane to me because, and one thing in there too, well, let me just say this too. Refresh your stream also on top of that, guys. I refreshed mine and it fixed it. It's cleared up now. And I'll go to the super chat too. If I respond to you, Josh. From GeoGasser, he says, Josh, don't you find suspicious Joe Kent being prevented from investigating foreign involvement on Charlie Kirk's case? We'll save that for a little bit. Let me respond first. But in terms of Vivek, what Vivek is proposing is exactly what I titled my Offensively Accurate episode, which was 8 billion undocumented Americans. And it's this idea that, right, but it's this idea that America only is an idea. And that anyone can be an American so long as you believe in like American exceptionalism and, free trade or like capitalism or something to that effect. And so, and even in the creedal sense, it's even being denigrated by Vivek, right? I would even argue to say, if you took away from the heritage element of it, the creed of America still would involve Christianity. And he's even removing that element of it too. And so they're watering it down to the point of essentially anyone can be an American. And the overall is that who does that help at the end of the day, right? Who benefits the most from the multiculturalism? And well, it's the same people who have been, for the most part, dictating a majority of what's been going on, which is the organized Jewry. They're able to subscribe to especially in a multicultural society, when most people have to essentially shed their identity, that's when they are most often to be able to operate. But in terms of Vivek, though, this is, once again, the snow begins to fall. He sees Christmas lights. And he crashes out. He starts raging out. I don't know really what the trigger is there around Christmas time that really sends him off on white Americans. But it's got to be noted, this is now the second time. This is 2 Christmases in a row he's leading this up to. And I would say, shout out to Casey, though. Shout out to Casey, the car guy. But go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was going to say, before we move on from that point, because you made that point on Offensively Accurate, and I told you before the show started, I was thinking the same thing. But now as you're saying it, I wanted to say, you know what it is? Nick brought this up on his show, where he talks about how when it's the Christmas season and you see the lights, you see the snow, depending on where you are, this traditional Christmas veneer, this look of things, it feels like America. It feels like what America really is.
Right.
And the rest of the time when we're just surrounded by all these nons, you kind of forget that, but then you see the Christmas light. I told you last week how in Zeb's neighborhood, they've got these like decorations where each house puts like a cutout of a stocking with the family name on it. And it's names like Smith. It's names like Perkins. It's American names.
Yep.
It feels like America. And you have to think, it feels like that to Vivek as well. Him walking around Ohio and he sees the Christmas lights, he sees the snow, and he knows he doesn't belong. So he lashes out at us. He lashes out at the real Americans.
Right. And I think that actually goes into the vein of what Nick had said earlier, right? Which is, it's not about the house, being priced an insane amount. It's about that where the houses are located, the country where those houses are located that are expensive doesn't feel like home. And that goes in the sense there of like, that's kind of what we would all like to go back to, which is that feeling of the slight bit of snow falling down, the dim lights, the orange lights, not these bright, ridiculous LED ones they have now. And, the big Christmas tree in the center of town, the seeing the Christmas wreaths, the homogeneity of it. And when you compare that, though, to like a video I saw the other day, I wish I had it to be able to pull it up, was you have this like this Muslim guy asking this other random black dude in the middle of New York, like, are you Islamic? And the guy starts like screaming at the top of his lung. He's like, I'm a Hasidic Jew, and I turned my back on Hasidic Jews. Like, and it's like, how can it feel like America when you have 2 blacks arguing about who's more of a Hasidic Jew and the Muslim Brotherhood? It's like, you don't. That's not what America is. It doesn't feel like that. And shout out too to The Boys as well. It's not a show I typically like watching, but there's a based edit in there from Homelander of all people, obviously. And the based edit is there's a new person trying to vie in to be part of the Seven, and in The Boys, the Seven's kind of like the Justice League. And this girl trying to get into the Justice League, or the Seven, is a Muslim, and she's got the hijab on and everything. And it shows a clip of her kind of giving her application into the Seven of like, I hope I get in, yada, yada. And it cuts to Homelander, and he was like, who the fuck do you think I am? He's like, we are America. I am not letting a Muslim into the Seven. And it's like, and that edit's been going around, and I've been very appreciative of that. But
who thought letting Captain Al-Qaeda in the Seven was a good idea?
Yeah, right. And it's good. It's
and
like,
you know what's so funny about that?
Go ahead.
What's so funny is it's like when they try to create these caricatures of like the bad white guy, everyone the Homelander's everyone's favorite character in that show.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Homelander because he's based and he's cool.
Well, dude, he is the best character in there by far.
For
at least for the edits.
I'm Team Homelander. I hope he wins. He's not going. Of course, he's not going to. But
That's funny.
I hope he wins.
I stopped watching her on like season 2 or whatever. I have no idea what's going on in the show now.
Yeah, can we get over the sex stuff? Like, we get
Yeah.
it. Superheroes have weird sex. It's 8 seasons of this stuff by now. But anyway, that's an aside.
Yeah.
Should I answer this question?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to keep it up before it disappeared.
Okay. So Josh, don't you find suspicious Joe Kent being prevented from investigating foreign involvement on Charlie Kirk's case? Yes, I do. But what is suspicious about this? And I've said it before. I know me and Zeb have very open disagreements on what went down with Charlie Kirk. This does not mean to say that I believe the official narrative wholeheartedly. It's simply that I don't dismiss it outright. And with Joe Kent, here's what's more concerning to me about this is with what's been going on with Candace Owens and Nick being on his generational run. I do think there's an element of they're letting Nick off the leash. I do not think Nick is a Fed. I think they let him off the leash. I think Candace is almost intentionally ginning up all this crazy rhetoric, as Atlas said, to gin up sports. So when the Democrats get back in, that they can censor us. And here's the thing. Why is okay, so if Israel killed Charlie Kirk, Joe Kent is in the CIA. Israel owns the CIA. Like, I almost think that's there for this reason, to basically say, oh, they're not investigating it, to gin up this idea that Israel did do it and get us. We're never going to get all the way there. If Israel killed Charlie Kirk genuinely, we will never find out. It's not going to happen. This is not 2001. This is not 1963. The evidence is so easy to cover up. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel about it.
You generally
and
are.
Honestly, what?
Said you generally are, but I was just messing.
well, excuse me. Basically what I think about it is this. They're dropping Israel pills into the water so that speculating here, that we stay on it so they can say, look how ridiculous this is, and then come after people for supporting it. Like Candace.
I have a simpler answer. And it goes back
Sure.
to the integrity of the case, which was the answer of many people around the subject. I think even including Kash Patel. Not that I like Kash Patel by any reason. But it's to the integrity of the case, which is that as long as Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent were pushing for foreign involvement, that opens the door for the defense to go, well, if Tyler Robinson was so surefire and you guys believed him, why was there an active investigation into foreign entities for 6 months? And then these are things that are used as an element to give a reasonable amount of doubt in the idea of they're, surefire 100% convinced that Tyler Robinson did do it. And that's all you need in the court of law, especially in terms of like a criminal conviction. That's all the jury needs to have is a reasonable doubt, that he did or did not do it. And so I think that in the simplest sense, it's that. I think, in my opinion, I look at a lot of the way that this has been handled from the gag orders and such as well, is it does seem that they are actively trying to stop the bleeding from people like Candace Owens and Ian Carroll, who have basically just been lambasting the overall case with 1,000 different answers that aren't Tyler Robinson, which I do think plays into the fact that the prosecution wants to keep it tight-knit and the focus on Tyler Robinson. That would be my answer to that question there. I'm going to throw another one in here. I'll do this real quick before we move on. And Jewgaster says, I think Nick Fuentes is so stiff on his position because all foreign involvement proponents are his former gripes, namely Joe Kent, Candace, and Tucker. Well, that's the thing is like, here's the reality though, is like Joe Kent, Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson, like to agree with them would not be to take my own side. These are individuals who would push back against white identity. They would tell you that we do need to push away from tribalism, and they don't have the grasp over what is actually occurring, the genocide that is happening to white people. Now, Tucker Carlson may be very well aware, but he's clearly pushing against it. Candace Owens isn't even white, so I wouldn't even expect her to hold that flag. And in terms of Joe Kent, I mean, how relevant is he besides when Nick Fuentes is brought up? To me, I think it's, to align myself with those, I think is to go against, other moral obligations that I hold in a higher priority, which is, the existence of my people and what an American is. And I would be more than okay with all three of those people no longer existing in the conservative space. Not in terms of anything bad happening to them, but just in terms of irrelevancy and, what they actually propose and are proponents of. But before we get too far into this, we're going back to AmFest. We're going to dive deeper into Vivek Ramaswamy seething about what an identity of an American is. And so we have a few clips here, but I do want to show first, I believe this is the right one to click here. Should be. Yes, this is Nick Fuentes quoting, this is the call that most people are saying is the call to war for the Groyper War 3, which is Nick basically saying, see you in Ohio. And this is one of a couple clips that was floating around from Vivek Ramaswamy, but I'll go ahead and play this one. Here it is.
There's a different vision of American identity that's emergent in certain corridors of the online right. And it says that your identity as an American is based on your lineage. That how long you have been in the country, your lineage and your genetics tied to the blood and soil of the country determines how American you are. It is the idea of a heritage American that says the truest form of an American is somebody who is a descendant of the American Revolution period or before. And I will tell you, this idea of the heritage American, we ought to have this discussion. It's becoming more popular. I think the idea of a heritage American is about as loony as anything the woke left has actually put up. There is no American who is more American than somebody else. The American quality, it's not like the left, they believe in this non-binary stuff. There's no non-binary American. It is binary. Either you're an American or you're not. There's a difference.
And so obviously he's proposing that on the front of what his belief of an American is. And I think he even pushed later on that if you were to disagree with his definition of an American, well, then you yourself are not an American. We have another clip I think we'll just go ahead and play because this is actually more aimed at Nick Fuentes himself, which is generally just a seething about previous things that Nick has said. So here's the second one here.
Our online commentator Nick Fuentes, if you believe that Hitler was pretty fucking cool, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. You can debate foreign aid to Israel all you want. That's fine. That's fair. But you have no place with that level of hatred. You can debate the right resolution of the Russia-Ukraine war, but if you believe Joseph Stalin is someone to look up to, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. If you call Usha Vance, the second lady of the United States of America, a Jeet, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. And if you can't say those things without stuttering, then you have no place as a leader at any level in the conservative movement either. Certainly not in my state of Ohio. Quote from our...
I think what probably...
His state of Ohio.
I was literally getting ready to say that. I think what probably pissed me off the most about that was him saying his state of Ohio. Like, man. And it's like almost like he's blind to the contempt and the ire that it draws when he does make these comments. Let me go to the super chat here. It looks like it's directed at me. Hey, Atlas, don't be a devil's advocate. Prevent investigation because you can't jeopardize your case is unconstitutional, un-American, and devilish. I don't know what that means besides very common. They do things all the time to protect the integrity.
I think he's responding to your answer to the question he asked me about Joe Kent.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I think for most people, they feel like, they don't believe anything. They don't believe the narrative. They don't believe whatever. But I think to say, it feels like what he's saying is the prevention of the foreign elements of the investigation is unconstitutional. But I would wager to you that it's very commonplace in a lot of investigations. Now, granted, it's not on the federal level of shutting it down. But most often than not, when they're proceeding to move to the criminal conviction of a said person, they'll see, like, say you have 4 suspects. Well, if you're keeping open investigation into 3 others, but you're trying the one, that doesn't give the jury the real kind of, belief that you really think it's that one if you're still keeping 3 other people in line for the same crime. It's very commonplace. I guess And unless I'm not misunderstanding what you're putting out there, or maybe you have a misunderstanding of what the common law is here. But moving on, though, I think one of the next things would be, well, how about you respond first to what Vivek said there about what it is to be an American? I want to hear your thoughts even more.
Yeah, dude. And not in my state of Ohio, like all too good to be true, man. It's well, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And also, I love how in both of these clips, he said, "We do not want so and so to be in the conservative movement. We do not want someone who praises Stalin to be in the conservative movement." He always says the most important thing last. And what was it in both cases? We will not accept someone who makes fun of the second lady of the United States, calling her a Jeet, in the conservative movement. We will not let someone who judges people based on their ethnicity, such as Black, Hispanic, Jewish, Indian, in the conservative movement. It just goes to show that, like, that is where his identity is.
Yeah.
That is who he identifies with in his speech about how America has no identity based on race, based on ethnicity. They can't even hide it. And this is a quick aside. I don't want to get too off topic here, but I was just reminded of this before the show started. Atlas, we were talking about how, for the TPUSA event, it basically crashed Grindr in the city that it was in.
Yeah.
This happened at the Republican RNC. And I was reminded of this because before the Republican primary, where Vivek kind of got his name, when he trashed DeSantis, where he trashed Nikki Haley, before that, he was just some like little guy. No one really knew who he was, who was running. And actually, the conservative radio show that I work on, we got an interview with him. So I actually spoke to Vivek Ramaswamy on the phone personally when he was at that level. And what's interesting, kind of funny about this, is his handler was the gayest man I have ever met.
That tracks.
And I have never, like, there was, I forget what it was, but there was like one little piece of miscommunication between the two of us, and he bitched me out. And Vivek would not come on the show anymore because this gay guy threw a temper tantrum. So it's so funny. Mr. Conservative, Mr. Ohio over here cares about Indians. And again, his whole organization is just as miloed up as the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, I think that's becoming another through line, which is, maybe the deep state is just homosexual. Maybe there's a stronger homosexual element to what the deep state is and what was previously thought. But again, makes sense if these people are, Satan worshipers, doing whatever they can to appease Baal or whatever they do. I think it can't be understated, like, how fake Vivek is and how, like, non-conservative he is. Like, one thing, and I wish I would have had this clip here, it's a shorter one, but many people might not even remember when Vivek was asked about January 6th, I believe, like in the moments thereafter, he was talking about how he cried. He cried about what a disgrace that the display of, patriotism or whatever he had said. But that was the point, he saw what happened on January 6th and he wept for the nation. Oh, woe is me. And it's like, that's not conservative. I mean, anyone who was a Trump supporter then, fully aware of like what had just occurred, right, with the election and the rigging and everything going on, was in full support of the events that were occurring on January 6th. They were like, this is what happens. This is a show of the people, when the system fails. And I think obviously with his background, with the the fake, I don't want to get super defamation, the poor Alzheimer's drug that he pushed forward that was ultimately not helpful to anybody, that largely gave him a lot of this start from where he's at. I mean, like, this is what describes a lot of people in this space, which is they got funding from some random place, a lot of times from something nefarious or degenerate, and they're able to wield influence because of said money like that. And so I think it is one of the unfortunate elements, but I think it proves the point, though, too, which is the majority of change that we need is going to have to be affected from the top down, which is why you're seeing a lot of people now calling for a strong executive. Bring the monarch. Where is our king? Someone crown someone, please. Get us out of here. And
hey, just because it walks like a rug pull scam and talks like a rug pull scam does not make it a rug pull scam, Atlas. You better be careful there.
Agree to disagree. But before we're moving off of Vivek here. I think Vivek is going to be one that we need to pay attention to. But before we move off of Vivek to Ben Shapiro, I do want to highlight Casey the Car Guy real quick before we do walk away from that. And Casey the Car Guy, or Casey Putched, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, is the man who's known as Casey the Car Guy, has a YouTube channel. I forget how big his YouTube channel is. Bigger than me, bigger than us. And he's now feeling like he's essentially being, not forced, but he has to run. Given the situation that's in front of him and what he's looking at, that's the way he feels, is he has to run, with the option being 1, an Indian, or 2, a woman Jew. So here's a little snippet of Casey giving a bit of a statement of why he's running.
And go home.
Why is it that Vivek Ramaswamy, a Republican candidate for the governor of Ohio, is authoring an article entitled, "What is an American?" Well, considering he's an Indian anchor baby, that makes zero sense. But considering the fact that he's a globalist Trojan horse, yeah, actually that tracks. Which is also the reason why we all hate him, and I am also running as a Republican candidate for the governor of Ohio, specifically to stop Vivek and save the state. Why is...
So that was just a small snippet. Obviously, I don't want to play too much of Casey's. I would encourage people to go and support him, go like his post. He's actively being suppressed on X right now. I kid you not. Most people aren't even privy to this element, but he is being suppressed on X. So the way that they do this is, you guys might see this if you're on X pretty often, which is if somebody's quote tweeted a post that's since been deleted. I want to put the super chat up real quick too before I lose it. If somebody puts up a post that's since been deleted, there is a kind of like a little notification that will still show. It won't show you the post, but will say something like, "This post is unavailable." And that was happening to all of Casey's posts. Although he wasn't deleting them, it was just that X was suppressing them, meaning you would have to literally click through all the way to his post to actually see it. And a lot of them were like photos of himself with just small little paragraphs about why he's running. Some of them was literally just like, like full-blown videos, him reposting something that he had posted on YouTube. So understand that there is already an act of a suppression against a homegrown person that is running for Ohio. And if anybody is running in Ohio, the person who would deserve to win the most is the person who actually belongs to this country, who actually is an American. But I'll go ahead and let you respond real quick before I go to the super chat.
Yeah, I'm excited because we talked about this at the beginning of the show. Is what are they going to say about him? What is Vivek Ramaswamy going to do when Casey the Car Guy gets on a debate stage with him and talks about the issues, talks about how you are selling out these people, the conservatives. You are pretending to be a conservative, and he's got the sheets, he's got the receipts. And what is Vivek Ramaswamy going to say about him? I mean, he's going to call him a Nazi. He's going to call him a racist. And this is just a guy who, if he had his way, he would build engines, he would drive fast cars, and he would make videos about it on YouTube and live a hunky-dory life somewhere out in Ohio. And honestly, I'm so excited to see this because of the effect it will hopefully have, and almost certainly have, on other people, to kind of light the fire under people like Casey, like you and me, to actually put themselves out there and engage in the political system.
Yeah.
Stop voting, start running, start winning.
Yeah. Stop hoping, stop waiting, do. Just do it. It's like Shia LaBeouf. Just do it. Just do it, man.
Nice.
I do apologize for the super chat. I think there's just a color clash. I'll change it on the back end along with 100 other things I still need to change. But I just noticed that we're at almost 200 people watching live, and there's only about a little over 100 likes. I'm assuming there's about 80 people who want a woman president. That's unfortunate. But anyways, if you don't want a woman president, smash the like button. And also think about subscribing and becoming a member as well. I think Zeb Boykin posted the link at the top of the chat there too. And we also are going to be doing member call-ins at the end of the stream here in about 25 minutes. We'll be opening it up to member call-ins as well. And just don't be an idiot. We don't like idiots. No, just kidding. just being typical.
What we like is people actually calling in. Although we had a really good discussion last week, even though no one called in. You and me had a great talk after the show, a great post-show wrap conversation. Zeb sent a super chat. He said that he DM'd you with Loomer attacking Casey with a highlight reel.
I see
I'm
that.
kind of curious.
Okay. I'll pull
do you
that
have
up.
it pulled up?
Let me pull it up
Okay,
here.
perfect.
Yes, let me go to
I
the
can
first super
filibuster
chat.
until you need time.
Because this was a bigger one. This is a $20 super chat. I'm going to make it bigger just because there was a color clash there.
Yeah, I can't read it. I didn't see.
Well, Josh can't
we
read.
addressed it.
Regardless. It says,
That's true.
just messing. It says, I'm an alcoholic and I really admire Nick. I think a lot of men my age, 30, are alcoholics. I want to get sober for the movement. Should I ask Nick and ask him to briefly speak on this crisis with young men? Alcoholism. I think anytime you send a super chat in to that effect, you're going to be rolling the dice whether you're going to get absolutely clapped and shat upon or you'll get a more genuine response. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would ask that specific question because I think it's going to fall back to where a lot of what he says, which is you as a man need to get your shit together first. And I think that's kind of always generally his message too, especially when he was talking about dating here a little bit ago. Which is like you have to ensure that you yourself are what you're expected to be as a man before you start complaining. And I think it's kind of in line with a lot of these kind of self-help guys. But what I would say is I do agree with you. I do think there is a really, I don't know if I would call it a big crisis or just a crisis in general. And it's unfortunate because you see a lot of guys who will push for, banning marijuana and whatnot. And I really don't care either which way. But then they don't want to ban alcohol. And for me, if I would push the position, they both got to go. They both need to be entirely I would just say removed from society completely. I know a lot of people don't want that because it touches their alcohol, but the point being is like, where's the line there? There's arguments to be made on both sides of it. People get mad, you're taking mine, or well, we need to come for yours, et cetera, et cetera. But I do agree overall largely that there is a crisis. And I think that part of it, we were talking a little bit about clavicular, me and Josh here before the stream. And this is somebody who's, getting close to Nick and in this space is like, a looks maxing white dude. Someone who's proud to be white, but what is he being seen on stream doing all the time? Oh, he's high on ketamine. He's getting involved in all these like ridiculous situations. He's putting lip filler in girls' faces, and it's like there does come a point where I do think like I don't agree with the policing of what the world, the organized jury would want to police the conservative movement with, but I do think general policing in terms of like what we expect from ourselves as Christian conservatives is required. I think that goes into any kind of movement, and you've already seen it happen too. I think. When you had Nick Fuentes kind of push a little bit against Pine Sap, when Pine Sap had the infamous moment on Jubilee with Mehdi Hassan talking about, I'm proud to be a fascist. And a bit more of like, he didn't clap at him hard, but he was saying, you got to know your audience. And there does going to be a bit of policing when you understand what we're up against. And when we're up against the world, all of the institutions for the most part, you're up against your own family in most cases. You're up against your own wife in most cases. You have got to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk, dot your I's, cross your T's, and be on your P's and Q's, or you're going to get annihilated. And I think that all being said still falls under the banner of, I know it's difficult for men, but there's a level of which that you have to be able to pull yourself up because nobody's coming to save you. And so hopefully that answers a bit of your question, but I'll let Josh respond too.
Yeah, I wanted to say, because I know people personally that have struggled with alcohol addiction, and I really do empathize and sympathize with you on this matter. And I know it's tough, but I also know it's possible. And I would say this as someone who's struggled with addiction myself, that I get the mindset of it's like you almost want permission. You almost want someone to tell you it's going to be okay. But the fact is you just have to get out there and do it. There's this moment, you watch a movie about like alcoholism and it's like something will happen and then the course of that person's life is changed forever. There's never just one moment where you're cured. It is a day by day battle. You will be fighting this demon till the day you die, but know that Christ is with you and that it's as long as you put your focus on him, as you fix your eyes on him, he will be with you in this battle, but it will be a battle. And if you super chat Nick Fuentes, you're probably just going to piss him off. And if not, he's just going to tell you what I just did. So that would be my advice on that.
And I think if anything, Josh probably has a better answer as somebody who does often super chat in. I've never super chatted in. I actually tried once and then didn't. Yes. It's kind of where we are. I get it. I think it's rough and awful. And I know people close to me that's addicted to whether it is alcohol or it's something worse than that, or it's, it's something, much more egregious than that. It's not even a drug, just some kind of addiction. There's an element that, the biggest element I think is nobody's coming to save you. And I think that once you can kind of convict your own heart and make a commitment to yourself to be a better person and actually do what you think you should be doing and not expecting other people to push you there, I think that's kind of the real change. And I'm saying this as somebody who used to be a personal trainer, and I quit being a personal trainer because I actually physically could not handle listening to men give excuses all the time anymore. It was giving me a really bad relationship. It was making me very bitter. Not that I was angry at these guys, but I wasn't understanding where the disconnect was at. I wasn't understanding why they were paying so much money to basically come and want to find reasons why they couldn't work out that day. And I'm like, why are you giving me like $112 for this hour if all you wanted to do is talk about your kids? And it's like to me, it was like that kind of drove me insane. And I had to step away from it because it was really kind of giving me a bad vibe with men in general. And that's kind of getting black belt a little bit. But to move on from there though, looking at the DM that was just sent to me by Zeb Boykin, let me switch the screen here so you guys can see it. This is from Laura Loomer. I'll go ahead and read it. This is supposedly the highlight reel of Laura Loomer attacking Casey. And what she writes here is, Putsch Trump's derangement syndrome is so bad that I could not fit all of his eye-opening anti-Trump remarks in one post. In July, Putsch posted a photo of himself burning his MAGA gear in a post that called for voters to turn against President Trump. Quote, "Here was my MAGA flag. This is how Trump voters feel. How does everyone in America get their country back from all of these left and right psycho billionaires?" She continues, on September 8th, just a few days after Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene joined congressional Democrats at a press conference insinuating Trump was a pedophile, which included protesters holding up posters that literally said Trump is a pedophile, Casey amplified the very same lies that were pushed by Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the congressional Democrats, posting, "And yet we can't find the Epstein list. I don't give a fuck. Trump sucks, and I voted for him 3 times." So it does appear that he's clearly reaching up into an area where they don't like him. When you look at some of these photos here, this first one is, again, what Laura Loomer had already pushed out there. And it looks like this one came from September, which I think I was already there. I was well off the Trump train by September. And it looks like this one came from July. So it looks like even in early July, he was already against Trump. And I would probably imagine that was off the back of the Iran strikes. And what I would say is this. Good. I'm glad Laura Loomer's attacking him. We need more eyes on Casey. We need more people familiar with who Casey is. We need more of these endorsements, and especially off the back of what I'd said earlier, which is that you have an active suppression mechanic censoring Casey, suppressing him, keeping him down. This helps. Laura Loomer is a big mega person who's going to get a lot of eyes who may be friendly to the ideas that are being espoused by Casey. But I'll turn it over to you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm almost tempted to super chat into Nick's show this upcoming Monday and ask him if he's heard of Casey the Car Guy and what his opinion is on that. I might be breaking my record of never having pissed Nick Fuentes off, but to get Casey in, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm genuinely curious about what is going to happen. And I'm very excited. And I totally agree. Laura Loomer, these people are so dumb. The best thing she could have done is not said anything.
Right.
But now people know who Casey is. And even if they have a negative idea of him now, if he gets far enough, they're going to see his face. They're going to see the things he says. And then they won't even remember this.
Right. And the thing is I think that the way they will attack Casey is they're going to force him to either disavow or attach himself to the Groypers, especially seeing how that's kind of the driving element of what Vivek is kind of lambasting out on top of the American identity. And I do have faith that Casey's going to be like, I love Nick. I like Nick. I mean, in fact, he was on X with another viral video about a couple months ago where he was watching Nick, I think, on his YouTube channel that started getting some play. I would imagine that's the attack vector. We'll see how that goes. And because I think for Casey, if they push him in that corner and then he disavows Nick, it's over for him. Like, no one's going to support that. So hopefully he's smart enough to not do something that's stupid. But I think that's ultimately what's waiting down the line for him is they're going to try to paint Casey in the same light as like he's got Trump derangement syndrome. Kind of the same way they're attacking Thomas Massie and MTG. They're traitors. They don't have loyalty. They gave up on Trump. They can't stand up to the Democrats, things like that. It works on a kindergartner, but not an American man with an IQ of higher than 45. And so that's kind of Casey's bit. Let's move over to Ben Shapiro, because the majority of the conservative movement wasn't reactive to Vivek, although I wish they were. The majority of the conservative movement was reactive to Ben Shapiro. And so I'll go ahead and play probably the most seething clip of them all from Ben, which is somewhere on here. Right here. Here it is. Here we go.
So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes, you know, the Nick Fuentes who said that the Vice President of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, retarded idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and fucked it, and that's why it's filled with Groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it. There is a reason that Charlie Kirk despised Nick Fuentes, and indeed even chided Dinesh D'Souza for debating him. He knew that Nick Fuentes is an evil troll, and that building him up is an act of moral imbecility. And that is precisely what Tucker Carlson did. He built Nick Fuentes up, and he ought to take responsibility for that, just as he ought to take responsibility for glazing pornographer and alleged sex trafficker Andrew Tate, or for mainstreaming fake historian and pseudo-Nazi apologist Daryl Cooper as America's best and most honest popular historian. Hosts are indeed responsible for the guests they choose and the questions they ask those guests.
I took TPUSA and I fucked it. Dude, I love that clip, man. Well,
oh my goodness.
Your thoughts on Ben? You're a big fan of Ben Shapiro?
Hey, watch your mouth there, Atlas.
You like this guy, right?
We might be blood brothers, but
this your man?
First off, because he's talking about Tucker Carlson, who's there. The backhanded little, and also the $5 words, the moral imbecility, the conniving, dude. These people, they do it to themselves.
Yep.
They do it to themselves, and it's so funny because we were muted during that. I've seen the clip before, but I was dying laughing when he quote. It's just we said it 100 times, but it's like they quote Nick Fuentes. They basically do their own impression of his greatest hits, thinking, family and go. They're gonna see him call JD Vance a fat gay race trader who's married to a Jeet, and they're gonna not like him anymore. Idiot. That's why we're here in the first place.
My favorite
calling
part.
The vice president a fat gay retard. That's funny. He's also fat and gay and retarded.
That's my guy. That's my guy. And that's the thing. JD Vance is a fat gay race trader. Like, who could say he's not? Like that just reminds me of the clip when they played it on Pierre's and he's like, oh, all those things I said there, all true. All of them. It's like, yeah, dude. Like when Ben Shapiro plays it, it's like, here we go, dude. Greatest clip compilation coming up one more time. And he looks like such a beta doing this too. I hate to use that word, but I mean, he reeks of like, the sneaky fucker. Like, I bet if I say this, she'll that'll get her wet. If I say this, like he's got to stop with it. But to me, the through line of it was the fact that of how other people responded to it. And so, we did shit on Candace earlier today, but she did have a good point against Ben Shapiro. And one thing I would add too is never forget who Ben Shapiro is and what he believes. And there is a great 60-second clip you can find of Ben Shapiro appearing on Joe Rogan that will tell you everything you need to know about Ben Shapiro and why he doesn't belong in this country. Because in this country, we believe and honor in the one true God that is Jesus Christ. And Ben Shapiro, and quite explicitly, does not believe in any of that. He thinks that Jesus Christ is a rebel who got killed for his troubles. Never forget that, and never for 1 second let anyone pull the wool over your eyes that Ben Shapiro is a leader or a face of this conservative movement. He is in fact a subverter, a gatekeeper, and he is a phony. He's much worse terms than that, but I will I will remain couth and not use those vulgar terms. So on that though, one super chat will bring this in. I think this is a follow up here actually. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it. And apologies for the color. Stream got taken down. The Jew and Mossad got a hold of it. They don't want to receive your chats or something. But he writes, "Thanks, guys. I figured he would brush it off, as Grow said. But addiction is addiction. He can make huge impact with one tiny statement, even if it clowns me. Just say quit drinking, and 20K men will." And I do agree. I think there is an element there. Even if you do get clapped on it a little bit, I do think that he probably will push for those things. And I would imagine he himself doesn't drink at all, so he probably does agree with you on. And maybe he'll make a point of like how it might be easy to quit drinking or something to that effect. Who knows? But I do think, you could be right with that. But before we move on from the Ben Shapiro thing, wanted to go to the Candace Owens element of her responding and what she said about Ben Shapiro. And then I think from Candace Owens, we'll go to Megyn Kelly's response on Ben. We'll wrap it up and then we'll move to the member call-ins. And so let's go to Candace Owens absolutely obliterating Ben Shapiro and his Talmud faith. Here we go.
I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, fuck you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they have a right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us, that they have a right to treat Charlie the way that he treated Charlie while he was alive, only to then try to defraud the population into thinking that he is somehow a part of his legacy, that he somehow cared about Charlie Kirk and cares to protect the people that are working at Turning Point USA. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye. Question is, how much more money is Ben Shapiro going to spend to make people think that he's popular? How many more articles is his father going to write under a pen name, Hank Berrien of the Daily Wire, under the pen name Hank Berrien, as he wrote while Ben was at Breitbart?
The main point of the clip got across, which was her entrance in of the Talmud as well, which is something that she has notoriously kind of shied away from for any of her kind of, next season on Candace or whatever the hell her show's called. And I think that's, man, if they don't ban Candace, I think that gotten a lot more free on YouTube than I think we have come to expect that free speech can be. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts were when you heard Candace Owens rip into him there.
Yeah, a little bit of former boss employee quarrel going on there as well, but it's absolutely true. And I've got my problems with Candace. Not a fan. I don't think she should be doing the thing she's doing. I don't think she should be in front of a camera at all, to be honest. But at least she's saying some good stuff. She's saying, white man, Ben Shapiro hates you.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Which is good, going back to where I've always said about any kind of political pundit, regardless, is you use them for what they are on the chessboard. I'm a very pragmatic individual. Like, do I think Candace Owens should be speaking in front of a camera and with a microphone? No. Do I think George Farmer should have a whip and maybe? But unfortunately, I can't will things into, just by wishing them. And so we will deal with what the pieces are in front of us. And I think that's a good point to be made. And I'm kind of curious what will come from that. I'm sure that she maybe will get, possibly chided for the comment she made there. One we won't play was the one from Steve Bannon, which was similar to Tucker Carlson was shitting on Ben Shapiro while he was there. And the two notable comments that came from Steve Bannon was, first, he called Ben Shapiro a cancer, but secondarily, he matched that and connected it to the fact that he is put it out in the public that he does believe that Ben Shapiro will make a move on TPUSA, similar to how the kind of falling out occurred at Breitbart while Steve Bannon was there. And so I encourage people to go follow up with those clips. They're pretty good as well. But we'll go to Megyn Kelly, because Megyn Kelly, I think, tells a bit of the story here too, especially as somebody who's basically been the mediator between the two different factions on the right wing right now. And so here's Megyn Kelly even pressing Ben Shapiro.
You mentioned him, and your name came up on this stage last night in regards to pretty much all of this. Would you like the opportunity to respond?
Well, I found it kind of funny that Ben thinks he has the power to decide who gets excommunicated from the conservative movement, which shows a willful blindness about his position in it. It reminded me a little of when the girl who was the head of our middle school chorus told me she was going to take all my friends away from me. Chorus? A head cheerleader maybe, but so I resent the whole thing. I object to the whole thing. Ben and I, he had the nerve to call me a friend right before he called me a despicable coward for not calling out the people he once called out. So he both wants to parent me and be my child. He wants to tell me what I have to do and who I have to say what to. And then when I don't, he and some of his friends want to act like utter victims because I won't do what they say. They need me. I have to be their daddy and step in to protect them. And I am not their daddy. And I resent that he thinks he's in a position to decide who must say what to whom and when. Thank you. So I don't think we are friends anymore.
So I wanted to make sure we got to that point about the being friend element of it, because you might remember, if anybody was watching the Groyper Report in the early couple weeks we started this, one of the first elements that we had covered was when Nick had basically made a call out to both Megyn Kelly and Patrick Bet-David, which was, how did it make you feel? How did it make you feel that Ben Shapiro had the gall to treat you the way that he treated you? The way that he had the gall to tell you who and what a conservative can be? And here's Megyn Kelly on the other side of it months later going, you know, who is Ben Shapiro to tell me what and what I can think? And also mentioning at the beginning, which is I think the most notable thing, which is him trying to gatekeep the conservative movement, she says, is a willful ignorance to who and where he is, which is like almost kind of saying the quiet part out loud, which is you're not a true conservative. You're not really a true American conservative, which maybe she didn't mean to say out there, but I thought it was good. And I think these things ultimately, no matter what you think of Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens, are pushing things in the right direction, in the direction that we need to move. And I'll turn it over to you, Josh.
No, this is rare Megyn Kelly W. That was the first time I had seen that clip. That was great. She trashed little Benny, put him in his place. And it's one of those things where, you know, we're pretty rough on the ladies on this show, I'll be honest. But even what is Ben Shapiro, like 5'4", a little Jewish boy still can't stand up to blonde-haired, blue-eyed Giga woman, you know? So good for Megyn. And it's so funny because the way I interpreted it is like what you said that her calling Ben out, basically showing he's not a conservative. I almost took it as she's calling him out saying, you're not Ben Shapiro. Like Ben Shapiro of 2025 is not Ben Shapiro of 2016. You're nobody, dude. Even the basic normie conservative is with Tucker.
Right.
Now, we have problems with Tucker, but we acknowledge that. That's just a fact. Ben Shapiro, who are you, dude? What are you doing here?
Yeah. I mean, even if you were to remove all of the contents, remove everything that they had said, and you were just to look at Tucker and then look at Ben Shapiro, Tucker has the ethos of an American man. Ben Shapiro does not. Ben Shapiro is very visibly like, you know, not typically an American archetype. But as we get closer to the end here, we're probably going to run a little bit longer just to get this across and give me time to turn on the members only here. But one thing I would add to before we go ahead and sign off here and switch over to members only and stay on the stream if you are a member, is the Epstein files. That's one thing we probably won't talk about much now, but we'll probably cover a good bit in the following week, seeing what happens to the fallout with the impeachments, with Pam Bondi, see how far they want to take it. Todd Blanche, I would imagine for sure will get impeached. Pam Bondi looks like that's who they're targeting right now. And will it go up, like as Adam Cochran said, to Donald Trump? I would imagine that the willfulness from the Democrat side will be there. And they already got 218 votes to unseal the Epstein documents. I'd imagine those 218 votes will be there for the impeachment as well, too. So it's kind of curious what we're getting into with the Epstein files, the partial release that it is. And obviously they violated federal law. They violated the deadline that they were supposed to meet. And even on top of that, they also violated the secondary tenet of what they were allowed to redact and how they could pull information. And as it was written in the law, the only thing that they could redact was things with explicit reasoning around, CASM. And that's not what we got. We got full-blown redactions from those who are politically vulnerable, I believe, to use their terms. And so we'll be covering a good bit of that as we continue on to next week as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. Members only live stream. We're going to start in 1 minute. It'll be for all channel members. You guys can call in as soon as members only get switched over. I will drop a link in there and you can come talk to me and Josh. And we will entertain you as we always do as us entertainers. And so you should be seeing a timer. It should be switching over in probably less than a minute now at this point. But we do appreciate you guys as always. Christ is King. Seek first the kingdom of God. Deport Cash Patel and ban Pam Bondi and Candace Owens from public life. And Lord willing, we will one day get our country back. And thanks everybody for being here. And we will see you on the other side as long as you are a member. And if not, become one, because otherwise you're missing out. But thanks again for staying with us. And we should be with you guys very shortly. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Where do you stand